Jitsu.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Jitsu podcast. We're here with Black Pegasus.
Bam! What's going down, y'all?
We got Rob Ward with us, Ruthless Rob, for those of you following on Twitch. Today we're going to be conducting a little interview here in Black P's studio.
Hey.
So we'll go ahead and get started. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Cool, thank you for having me. Hell yeah.
This is
number one, right?
Yeah.
Cherry poppers.
This is our first show for those of you just tuning in or never watching. So this is an interview I'm excited about. I'm a fan. I really like Black Pegasus, and actually I wanted to show you a little something. I don't know if you remember giving me this, but this is from 2017. Like you gave me this at the Fight to Win Colorado Open. So
I do remember that, actually.
Yeah.
I don't even know like what's going on with hard copies anymore, because like literally since I've given you that, streaming is so relevant. It's like I used to order thousands of CDs because we'd move them, but now it's like cars aren't putting in CD players in the new cars. Most of the new computers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to have like an extended hard drive. So like I know for when I drop my next project, you know, the hard copies will be super limited, or maybe we'll do like pre-orders, like, hey, if you want a hard copy, pre-order, and then the rest will just be digital. So that's, you have a dinosaur right there. And it's only like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, that's crazy how much technology changes in time. Of course, happy Father's Day.
Cool, thank you.
Yep. And I guess we'll go ahead and get into it. So you have roughly about 10 studio albums right now?
Yeah, so on my digital streaming, you know, I have about 10 albums. Like if you get on my Spotify, you can go through. I started this journey in a hip-hop group called FOS. So one of those albums, Focus on Skills, is online, but one of them I just have like physical copies still. So it's like I might put it out, but so like I have some stuff, like I have more work but 10 solo projects I do have online.
All right. So I gotta ask, what point in life did you decide that you're gonna chase this dream?
I want to say it was like 97, 98. Actually, it was 98. So I've always played with rap a little bit since like 93, 94, like freestyle with my friends over records and stuff. But in 98, I got introduced to actually 97. We had this DJ and we'd rap and I was like, I understood how to put my rhymes over a beat. But in 98, I went into my first real recording studio, and my first real producer, Bass Jace, and then I got some beats from a buddy named Dub X, Chad Ellis, and then a couple other cats. But the moment I went in the studio and recorded in a real studio, that's where I got the concept for this. That's when I was sold. I was like, oh, wow. Because I was doing like a lot of other stuff that would probably get me in trouble just in general in life. But the moment I started recording, I was like, dude, I love this. And I didn't know I was going to try to do it for a living. Yeah. I was just like, yo, I'm like probably how you're passionate about jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. Like, I was like, dude, this is amazing. I started all my extra money. I started pawning gold chains, speakers. All my extra money went into studio time and buying beats. Because back then, there's no social media. So beats, like this is 98. So beats were like getting original beats from producers was super hard to do and kind of expensive. Yeah. So I just spent everything on studio time and recording. And that's when 98, the moment it was Illinois Studios. That's the name of his studio. And, the moment I walked in that studio and recorded and I got to listen back, I was like, wow, like, and they put the music on DAT, and he's like, for $10, I'll give you can put it on the CD, because CDs weren't like they were now, so he burnt it on a CD, and I was like, I have a CD of my own myself, and you know, because we're just coming out of the tape cassette era. You're still selling tape cassettes in 98. So being able to get my music on a CD, it just blew my mind. I was like, I'm gonna do this, you know, like I'm gonna make music. That's what I knew. I was like, yo, I'm gonna just keep making music. So
okay, all right. So once you decided that this was, you know, what you were gonna do for a career, what struggles do you think that would almost like, if it's not too personal, any struggles that would have like almost derailed you, like?
So the first decision was like, man, I want to do this, right? But it's like, how do I make a living doing this, you know? And so I had to like get my expenses and certain things down to a certain level. But things that would have derailed it or made it really hard would have been, and it actually derailed it for some of my buddies that started rapping with me. So like substance abuse, and then in my eyes, it would have made it really hard or challenging having a child, like really young, you know, because you got to think, I start 98, I was 18, and I just had my first child almost a year ago, like 9 months ago.
Yeah.
So, like, that would have been really interesting, you know, challenging. And it's interesting to see someone with the story, like, let's say Eminem, where it's, you know, he's always rapping about Haley and like, oh my God, the struggle was so like tight knit, just like I had to make it. So, you know, it's cool seeing that story, but you also see the challenges, and he was the one story that made it, but there's a million stories who didn't. And when you have to start taking care of a child, there's different responsibilities you have, time, you know, just a lot of different things. So I couldn't imagine trying to juggle, you know, like living in my, because I like basically because of expenses, me and my boy Blizz had an apartment and we were like in the hood, you know what I mean? And so it's just like, you know, it's just like a lot of those things. But the things that could have derailed it, I think substance abuse, having a child, and then, you know, illegal activities too. Because, you know, when I started out, I was working at a call center, but then I was selling like dirt weed. At that time, there was no good weed, and it was illegal as hell to sell it. You get caught with dirt weed, you're done. It's a wrap. And so, like, if I would have continued all that, it could have been have been an issue. But, you know, honestly, the music, you know, it's kind of a cliche thing you hear with, like, let's say musicians, sometimes athletes, like, yo, music saved my life, but it really did get me on a I got focused. I got focused about something I was passionate about, and nothing changed that focus for, you know, so it really just, that was it, you know, it kept me on my path.
All right. So you've done, besides just multiple studio albums and features, and you actually have been done tours. One of those tours was Waka Flocka.
Yeah. That was this year and a couple of years ago too. Yeah. In the mountains.
So, what's the tour life like for those of us that'll never get on tour? What's that travel, that ambiance of the whole thing? What's that like?
So I got lucky because some of your viewers might not have ever heard of me because I am under the radar. You know what I mean? Like, I'm an underground hip hop cat. But I have been blessed. Like, I've toured all of America, all of Europe, and most of Canada in my run. You know what I mean? And that lifestyle is very unique. You know, I've went on tour with Tech Nine. Those were the craziest tours. And, like, just to keep it honest, just like what people present in the industry, touring is like that rock star lifestyle, like late nights, early morning, you know, a lot of attention, females, partying, like, yeah, I guess it depends on who you're touring with. I wasn't like a partier like that because I told you, like, the substance abuse, that could have got me off track when I'm on tour. But there's still, no matter what, there's still, like, there's a lot of freedom, letting go, and partying on the road. Just a lot of stuff that the average person doesn't see. And that's why I think so many people chase fame, because fame is a drug and it gives you all these things. It gives you women's attention. It gives you popularity. It gives you, like, I remember when I was super popping in Colorado Springs, it's like I go to the movies on a date and the dude like, oh, you're Black P, here's a free ticket. Just like little stuff with just, you know, and it was cool, you know. So those type of things, but touring brought that because touring helped me gain that popularity, and then that popularity creates like this celebrity thing, and then that, you know, creates something else of its own with just, you know, all types of stuff. So, but yeah, definitely saw that, you know, some of that rock star lifestyle, not as crazy as some of the rock stars, right? But definitely lived part of the rock star lifestyle on the road for sure.
Okay. Another thing some of our viewers may not know is you were the voice for the Denver Nuggets.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah,
this year, yep.
Yeah. How did that just kind of fall into place? Was it something you've been trying to get, or?
So what happened was, like, I've kind of been a pillar in the hip hop community in Colorado. Like I've always been kind of like the go-to name for years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I kind of got my break in 2003 from some battle rap stuff. Gave me tons of notoriety out here. I actually was in Cincinnati. It's a battle called Scribble Jam. At that time, it was the biggest stage in the world to battle on. And actually, in the finals, I battled Rhyme Fest, and he wrote like Jesus Walks and stuff like that for Kanye. It's done work with Kanye. But anyways, that kind of catapulted me when I came home, because I went out there, I got second place, but it was like the world battling stage. So I came back home, and back then without social media, there was a lot of rumors that, oh, like, you know, he did this, he did that, like rumors that I couldn't control. It was just like, yo, he, you know, like I heard a rumor, he beat Eminem and like all types of just craziness, right? And what happened, there's this rapper named Juice that I beat in the battle, and he beat Eminem in the Hip Hop Olympics. So people were tying that story, and it was just crazy. Yeah. But back then, because there was no social media, I come back home, I'm the man. Anyways, it just really catapulted my career to being on that echelon where just, you know, everything just started coming in. I think I lost track of the question though. I think I started going into the story.
No, that's fine. One more thing I had to ask about that. When he says he's like a pillar in the Colorado
the
community.
voice. Yeah. That's how I became. So I can't. My bad. So I became like a you know in 2003. I got my name. I put a lot of things together, and that's when I started touring, and then I started living off of music in 2004. And so I just, since 2004, I basically just toured and just put myself out there and did tons of shows. Like I've opened up for Wu-Tang Clan, 50 Cent, T.I., Tech Nine, Waka Flocka. I mean, you name it, like I've kind of been there, you know? So being that pillar, what happened was the Nuggets were changing their logo and their colors. I don't know if it was last year or this year. It's all like kind of jumbled up in my head right now, but they were changing the colors and logos. And what happens was they're like, we embrace change. The city of Denver, the evolution of Denver as it's growing, they're like, we want to embrace that change. And the Denver Nuggets is one of the franchise teams that have had multiple different logos, if you want to compare it to the Broncos. Mm-hmm. So like, we want to embrace that and grow. We have this young team that's phenomenal. We want to grow. So what they were looking for was a new voice and something kind of urban, but not too urban, a little modern, to fit this commercial for the logo switch. So they sat in a boardroom, and I believe one of the homies, fast forward, I didn't know him until after this, but his name's Alan. He was from Fort Collins, and he saw me perform multiple times at the Aggie in Fort Collins, and he was just like, hey, what about Black Pegasus? And he kind of gave the backstory, and everyone was like, that's kind of a no-brainer. Yeah, let's do it. They hit me up. I went in and did it, and I just did the commercial, the voice for the commercial of the changing of the colors and the logo, and they liked it so much. Later in the season, they're like, hey, do you want to do the whole season? And so that's still up in the air. They might hit me up this year to do it again, you know. And it's one of those things where I think when you get used to that regular radio announcer voice, we're like, da, 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 like people are kind of abrasive to it, but for me, they weren't. They were like, oh, this is kind of cool. Yeah. But it does take getting used to. I'm realizing there's a saying, people, I forgot the saying. It's about liking what they know. Like they really, you know, they don't know what they like what they know. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it takes time to build that familiarity, but if they give me the chance and we keep doing it, you know, I think that could be a home run. So. Yeah, no,
I was inspired, and you know, I'm a Cleveland fan, so
there you go.
R.I.P. Cavs. All right, but yeah, I was about to say. You know, for those of you that aren't in the Colorado, you know, you may not have heard of Black Pegasus, but here I actually was working security, and I heard you in the club. I was working security over DJ Chevy P. Do you know him?
Oh yeah.
He was like, hey, it's Black Pegasus. This is DJ Chevy P. I was like, oh man, Black P. He's here. So that's pretty cool. Like you're all over the place. That's cool. Okay, so. Well, what about future events? What do you got coming up?
So, in the transition of being a rapper, I had to learn how to like put businesses together so I could make a lucrative, because I never like broke. So since my career never super broke out of Colorado, I just naturally kind of gravitated to business, you know, having like looking up to people like Jay-Z and 50 Cent. So like I built a studio, and then by default I became a promoter. I started promoting concerts. So anyways, to answer your question, every month I have 4 to 5 concerts going on in Colorado Springs, Denver, Fort Collins, sometimes Grand Junction in Colorado. But those are shows that I just promote. Like I bring out big names, sometimes smaller names, but you know, every month I have something going on. So if you're on my social media and you see all this stuff, sometimes it gets confusing because I'm promoting concerts that I'm bringing but not performing at. I am working on performing at the Black Sheep on 7/19. We live in Colorado Springs. It's 719 is our what is that, area code?
Area code, yeah.
And so they want to do a 719 day because that's on like a Friday. And so my buddy from the Black Sheep, Kevin, hit me up, and I think I'll be headlining there. So that'll be my most recent thing. And then other than that, I'm just trying to finalize this album, and then I'll headline some stuff. I'll open for some people, you know. Because I'm a promoter, because I've been around so long and I have a fan base, it's not hard for me to get shows. Like I can almost get on most of any type of show I want, other than like the Red Rocks plays. That takes a little more time and finagling, but anything else, like I have a lot of I can just kind of get in there just because I have a good fan base, and then I throw shows myself. So if push comes to shove, I'll just put myself on my own show that I threw.
Yeah.
So
Okay. All right. So do you have any artists that you're working with right now that you are excited about, or any that you may collaborate with or something like that?
So I started back in the day, me and my buddy started a label called Brass Knuckle Entertainment. In time, we transitioned it to Brass Knuckle Gang. And originally it was a record label format. We've recently turned it into more of a crew thing as things start to change with digital, you know, where artists can kind of take control of their career. I don't want to be like hovering over until I have certain leverages in the game where I can like get you on a tour or get you here and there, you know, so I don't want to slow down what they're doing. So it's more of like a crew thing opposed to the label thing now. But one of the group that I'm working with pretty heavily is Chain Store Collective. They're my buddies. Blitz, in that group, actually, he's one of the engineers here and he produces. So I'm working with him closely. I got a couple buddies like Judge J, Chris LaShawn. Originally I had the group with like my boy Ray Ryder, Mickey Monday, and Reckless County. But in this industry, like, people kind of fade or they come back. You know, there's hills and valleys because you have a personal life, and then you have like this, it's almost like a fictitious life because you're like a superhero when you're on stage. You know, it's like different. It's an interesting dynamic. But you know, those are a lot of my buddies I work with, and then I work with tons of artists in the local scene, and I'm always looking for that next kid that I can try to help or put, you know, I'm always trying to position things, and I'm always putting local artists on shows. It's kind of like a system I connected where it helps me because they're out helping grind, sell tickets, and do stuff like that, but I try to help them as well and create services and get them at the right spot and get them the exposure and certain things they need and try to make it an equal give-take experience. So, you know, throwing shows, I work with tons of local artists, and there's a lot of good local artists out there that you know, I work with and try to help get on the platform.
All right. So, I got to ask, the homage video.
Okay.
Man, that, like, I saw that thing all over the internet. Like, what inspired the theme for that video?
Actually, I just kept listening to it, and in the background, there's like this, I don't know what was sampled, but it was just like this loud kind of composition or opera sound. And I just kept thinking, you know how like Star Wars has all these like big sounds just to make the movie sound like what it sounds like. So that's just kind of, I just kept walking my dog, listening to it, and I'm like, man, I just keep seeing like a desert. Like I was just like some Star Wars type stuff. And I was like, man, could I make this happen? I talked to my video guy. I was like, can you make lightsabers? He's like, yeah. I was like, what do we have to do to do it? He's like, get a sword, make get some green tape, wrap the blade in green. He's like, I can make it happen. I can key it in. I was like, dude, let's go to the sand dunes. Like, let's make this happen. Like, I'm going to make some crazy outfits.
Yeah.
Let's just do this.
It was great.
Yeah.
Like I saw people that don't even listen to rap reposting, and I was like, all right, that was a brilliant choice. You just got that just from walking, huh?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like, with where I'm at in my career, I've done 1 million videos in the alley, in front of a car, with chicks, like, just basic rapping, And I always try to, I always try to come up with very creative ideas. So it'll be like every other video, one will be like super creative, and then the other one will just be like rapping, like, something simple.
Yeah.
And I like creating. Like, that's actually my favorite part right now, is like creating videos and coming up with the concepts. And so with that one was just, that's the other thing. I've kind of been wanting to put more action sequences and like martial arts and stuff like that into the videos, just because that's what I'm into. I'm into old school kung fu flicks and stuff like that. So I just want to put that stuff in the videos, whether people like it or not. I'm just like, man, F what you're all talking about. Like, let me just do it, like, whatever, But it's weird because it kind of alienates the female fan base, because you know what I mean, like they're like, you know what I'm saying. So it's like trying to find that balance, but like that's just what I'm into. So I'm like, cool. And with that, it was like I've always liked Star Wars, and then putting my own flip on it, because what I tried to do was flip it up. I mixed it with stuff I like, so it has all the Star Wars schematics, but the idea being in the desert is kind of from that scene of Shogun Assassin, where he fights the 3 guys and stuff like that, So I got a lot of that ideas and imagery from that, and just mixed it with Star Wars and just made it a whole play on all of that. So
that was one of my favorite videos. But I don't know how much involvement you had on this one, but like that one, it took us to a different place. We didn't feel like we were just somewhere listening to a music video. One that I thought was crazy, and like I said, I don't know how much your involvement was, but the video Way Back. Yeah. You guys were just around Colorado Springs. Like, I recognize the places, but the vibe of the video, like, and then you guys just the what you guys are doing in the video, like, you were in Colorado Springs, but we weren't there. You know what I'm saying? It was like, I was like, I as a film student, I was just like, man, this video has everything you need. You guys walk, you had the boom box, and it felt like I was, in like a little. It was in Colorado Springs, but it was in its own little hip hop world. So I thought that was pretty cool. As a matter of fact, I wanted to tell you, your verse on there is what inspired me and Hector to sit down and start talking about this. We were sitting down, like, kind of brainstorming. We were like, man, let's throw this on, and we watched that. We listened to that verse. We're like, nope, you know what? Black P's right. We don't need a boss. We're gonna go ahead and try to do this on our own. So. Yeah,
that's actually been my success story. Diving in, like, with the music shit. Like, I didn't have my shit together. I remember at first, I got laid off my job, and I was like, what am I going to do? So I started getting unemployment, and then I just started battle rapping, and I'd win every weekend. So I was winning $350 to $500 a weekend battle rapping. So I made it where, like, I would go in my basement, write punchlines, and then just freestyle and try to connect the punchline in the freestyle, just watch TV and just, like, get good at my craft. Because back then it was like freestyle over beats. So you had to be on beat. Like, it was just different. But this was the 8 Mile era. So, like, when 8 Mile dropped, all of a sudden everyone was throwing a battle. And this allowed me to, like, literally between unemployment and battle rapping, I was able to live. And then when the unemployment ran out, I just figured it out. Like, I just dove in. Like, I was there. I was like, and it's been, when I built this studio, I was nervous because I had to put up like $15,000 almost to, like, get all the right equipment, get, the furnishing, get, first month, last month's rent, like all these things. And I was like, man, is this going to be a good investment? But, I just had to do it. Like, we had to buy that glass, cut the wall out. Yeah. My father-in-law helped me put the glass in and all that. And so, like, all these little details, all of it costed money. And I was like, dude, what am I doing? But then once it was built, it was the field of dreams. Yeah. If you build it, they will come. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it took like 2 years to get to the point where it's like profitable, but it didn't take that long. It took me like 7 months to be able to just pay the rent. And I was like, okay, cool, we're paying the rent. And then it started getting, making a little bit here and there, and here we are,
All right.
So
that's good stuff. So a funny thing is, one of our favorite movies is The Last Dragon.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know what The Last Dragon is. And I tell people, they're like, how'd you get into martial arts? And I was like, I was literally watching TV one day and The Last Dragon came on. I was like, black people do kung fu and karate? I'm like, I do that now too. And then when they came out glowing and stuff, I was like, that's it. I'm sold. I need to be able to work hard until I can glow. So, what got you into jiu-jitsu? I gotta ask.
So, I'm going to just go back so I can relate with you on that.
Yeah.
So when my first flicks that I ever saw, my dad's from Harlem, and we went to Harlem to move his mother to California because they were just it was like a, you know, where it was at, it was just a bad situation, you know? And I remember being there, and there'd always be like kung fu flicks on just late at night. They'd just run on cable, or not cable, just normal television in New York. And I don't know why, but there's this time I was chilling with my dad, and I was super young, maybe 2 or 3, and I just remember Enter the Dragon being on, Bruce Lee. Yeah. And I was so into Bruce Lee from a very young age. Like, it just was like, I loved Bruce Lee, and The Last Dragon connected it.
Yep.
The Last Dragon made it be like, something that I always liked in Bruce Lee now relates to, like, black culture too. Yeah. And you're like, oh man, yeah. Like, and then it's so like, it's like cool, hip, and funny.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's how it was. But I was into all just crazy, like The Perfect Weapon and Cynthia, what was her name, Rock, the ninja movies. Yeah. Like, I just love martial art. I bought Black Belt magazines every month. Like, I was just like, I just loved martial arts. Like, so anyways, fast forward, you know, I had started doing karate and traditional martial arts since probably 5. So like, we always did it on and off. Then when we got to Colorado, we started Universal Kempo Karate. So I was still into the karate thing. And I saw the UFC when it first dropped. What was that? Like, when was that?
93 maybe?
Yeah, I think
maybe
so.
Or it was somewhere around
there. Yeah, because it was like on DVDs and stuff. And so like, I wasn't supposed to see it. When I saw it, I was like 13 or 14. But I was always just thinking, even though I saw it, I didn't connect Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. I didn't get it because I was so young. Mm-hmm. I was just like, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to train karate harder. This is just ill. Yeah. Like, these dudes are actually fighting. So I just was doing karate. And in Kenpo, I was doing tournaments. You know, the point tournaments or whatever. Yeah. But honestly, time passed. My parents couldn't afford to keep us in karate. We got out of it. I got into music. I just got into music, and I disappeared from martial arts, but it was such a big part of my life. I'm guessing 2016, I was like, man, I can't live without martial arts anymore. It was like there was a space that music wasn't filling for me anymore because I was already like 18 years into music, and I was kind of burning out. And I was like, man, I'm going to do kung fu, kickboxing, karate, ninjutsu. I was like, I'm going to do something. And then I was like, or jiu-jitsu. And what happened was, honestly, I was watching the Joe Rogan podcast, and I forgot who he had on, but they were basically saying, like, if you were going to do a combat sport, the base of almost all combat sports is going to be either jiu-jitsu or boxing. Jiu-jitsu, because it always ends up on the ground. Boxing, so we always start standing up kind of thing. It's like, these are 2 great bases to have. And I was like, okay. And my buddy Simone, one of the dudes I started rapping with, he was in my rap group FOS. He went by MC Strife. He does jiu-jitsu and had been doing it for like 2 years. He was like, bro, this is a no-brainer. Do jiu-jitsu. Just trust me. He's like, just go in and try it. So I just called a few schools around town. I ended up going to Bill's. And I was like, wow, my first night. Actually, I got thrown to the wolves. I was rolling my first night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, it was like, what? Like, it was like, oh, shit. Like, and now that I look back, I was like, that's ridiculous because I didn't understand it. And so I rolled too hard for, like, the first month. Like, just being, like, oh, man, I look back, I feel like a dumbass. Oh, man. But anyways, so that's how I got into it, you know? But once I got into it and understood what it was, I was like, wow. I was like, I got to do this the rest of my life. I was like, there's no, like, I have to, like, you'll never understand it fully because it's always evolving. Mm-hmm. But that's why I was just like, dude, I just have to do this. And I've even, in my brain, like, I'm like, yo, once I get to, like, purple belt-ish level or mid-purple, I want to start taking up some striking again. But I'm not going to, like, sacrifice because the learning process is a lot longer for grappling for me. Mm-hmm. You know, some people can watch a video and they try it in the gym. They're like, oh, I'm a phenom, you know. I'm like, okay, good for you. Yeah. But I got to do it a million times, you know what I'm saying, for it to connect. But that's one of those things I just dove in. I just showed up to the gym, and I was like, oh, wow, here we are, you know.
Yeah. That's funny you say that because everybody's like, yeah, so, you know, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for a while too, and, like, I'm still the student that my teacher can show me something. They'll show it a bunch of times, and then when it's time to go over there and do it, they're like, all right, go ahead and practice. I'm like, You go first.
Right, yeah. Congrats on your brown belt too, man.
Thank you.
I told you online, but it's different than saying it in person.
I appreciate it. Combat sports is something that I think that a passion for a lot of people, especially the three of us. Did you happen to see any of the Bellator fights or hear about any of them?
This weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
So, what do you think about Chael Sonnen finally retiring?
I mean, I think it was weird because it was like super emotional, right? And you're like, oh man, that sucks, But I haven't seen anything that made me be like, yo, keep going, like keep pushing. I do think when he made the decision, it was definitely a lot of emotion stirring. So like that's kind of like I try not to make decisions when I'm that emotional.
Yeah.
But I think he had thought about it. I think with the way like he's so good on TV and the podcast, I think he's kind of like, man, I get like he knows and he said it. He's like, there's something he was lacking the fight or something. Like he was like, I'm lacking something. I get it because recently I've been feeling that way with music. But with music, I don't put my body on the line. So you give it a rest. You come back when you're feeling a beat. Like, oh, I got to get in. It just comes back. And so maybe if you want to go in the gym and train, cool. But I think when you're doing combat sports and putting your physical life on the line, it's like I think you do have to make that decision. And I haven't really seen like some breakout performance from him in a while where I'm like, oh, like, yo, you got this. Just make that last run. It's like, yo, if you're not really have a goal, it's kind of hard to stay passionate too. Like if you're going after that belt or like the tournament, because they do those tournaments in Bellator, cool, you have a reason. But once you're out of that tournament, it's kind of like, does he really need the money? He has a great career in broadcasting.
Yeah.
So
not to mention he has Sub Underground and he's got a lot of stuff going on.
Right.
So especially in Oregon, he's got a lot of stuff.
And also sometimes that stuff can distract you from being an elite athlete because most of the elite athletes, they're zoned in. They don't do anything else. It's just like, yo, this is what I'm doing. I'm going all out. And I think some good athletes can juggle it. You see Tyron Woodley, he juggled it for a while, but, sometimes that'll be the breaking point is that one athlete that said, well, no, I'm not going to do this other shit. I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And sometimes that will be what the deciding factor in a fight. So that's what I think.
Look what happened to Connor. With Proper 12 and stuff, as soon as he got a sponsorship from Dana, it was just like, later I'm going to go collect a whole bunch of money and tell me what I want.
Yeah. And honestly, if I don't blame him either. Like, why keep risking it? Like, people are using your name to try to propel themselves up to that level, and you're like, why? I'm already making money. I can make boxing money now.
I'm going to sit on my couch and make that much. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. We actually were talking before we actually went on the show, talk about Marco Polo. Netflix, if you're listening, bring that back.
Please. You done messed up.
Besides that, is there any other TV shows or even in the past? Like for me, what was that Warrior show where they'd theoretically pit the Warriors against each other?
History's Black Ops or something.
Yeah, something like that. It was they take people that are proficient in there and they have them chop the gel dummies and measure the force and then they put it in a computer and simulate stuff like that. Is there any type of shows that you find interesting?
Yeah, so I honestly watch podcasts or listen to podcasts a lot. So I watch shows less than the average person, but recently, I kind of binge watched. I didn't even know. I think it's tight, but I think it's called Enter the Badlands or the Badlands.
Oh, yeah, Into the Badlands.
I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. This is up my alley. So I was like, it's has this kind of crazy story, but some martial art. Like, okay, cool. So I enjoyed that. Wifey put me on to Stranger Things. I was like, man, I'm not going to like this 80s throwback thing. And then I started, this is tight. So I like that. Marco Polo, and then weird shows. I like all the fighting stuff on Netflix. There's this one fight show where the dude goes to different countries and he shows. It's called Fight Something.
Yeah. And
I saw that. I saw the Dustin Poirier documentary on there way back. That's really good. There's some good ones on the low. They take them off though.
Yeah.
But
a lot of people have not seen that Dustin Poirier.
Dude, it was on Netflix and it's fire. It's really good.
And my favorite part is when the little dude's in the background. He's like Dustin Poirier. He's trying to pronounce his name as a little announcer. And I always make that joke, and nobody has seen the documentary, so they don't understand it. But yeah, I've liked Dustin Poirier since way back then, so I'm pretty excited he's going to get a chance at the title. I don't know if he can take Khabib because Khabib's pretty good, but I'm rooting for him. But the odds are stacked against him. But I hope he does all right.
Yeah, stuff like that. I like Doomsday Preppers too for some reason. I like stuff like that. Like Naked and Afraid is kind of cool too. Yeah. So like stuff like that. But yeah,
some of those ones get wild.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's about all we were wanting to cover. The Anthony Joshua fight. What did you think about that? Now, my friends have a show. James Dominguez and Kelly Pavlik. What's up, guys? James had, from an inside source, he got that Joshua was knocked out during sparring either the week of the fight or the week before. And a lot of people have dissected the fight, and they showed pictures where he was like, they were about to call his name and he looked out of it and stuff, and they think he was concussed. And then there's other people on the other side, they're like, we're trying to take away from Ruiz's accomplishments. What's your opinion on it?
So from watching it, I've heard that too as well. I think that makes a difference. If he was really concussed or got knocked out in practice, I think you need to take a few months off, give your body and your mind a rest. So I do think that could play a role. I don't. So how you have the internet experts, right?
Yes.
That's so. Yes. I really hesitate on. So when I give my opinion, this is just total opinion based on the minuscule amount of boxing I know. You know what I mean? But when you look at Anthony Joshua, I think to myself, I'm like, yo, when you were in trouble, just playing that distance game, he is so long, and homie was short and pudgy, and Ruiz brought the fight to him, but I just felt like Anthony Joshua does have the athleticism just to keep him off and just make it his fight. So I don't know what happened there. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I'm wrong.
And I was wondering, I was just like, why are you still in there? Hey,
I got hurt, and then I'm gonna go brawl, and it was just kind of, I don't know if ego got there, he went into it doesn't matter what happened in practice. I got this dude's number. He's not on my level because, he is one of the elite champions in a sense. I know everyone kind of downplays because he hasn't fought Wilder or Fury, and I don't know if that's, a lot of he's scared, but a lot of times politics come into play too, and then you're trying to please your coaches, your management.
Yeah.
So, if these dudes are getting in there fighting the people they're fighting, you can look at, let's say, Wilder and be like, that's a scary dude. But I don't think at that level anyone's like, hey, I'm not fighting him, I'm scared. You can't combat athletes don't think like that and get to that level.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so people keep saying, oh, he's scared. And I'm like, y'all need to calm down. There's a lot of different things at play. Yeah. I don't think he's scared. I do understand why people do, and I could understand why maybe they're trying to place it, but now it's kind of backfired that he lost to Ruiz, and they got to do a rematch. And I think the rematch will kind of answer the opinions, because I think you're going to get to see how good Ruiz is really, because right now everyone's playing him like he's a fluke, kind of like they played Weidman against Silva, which even both his wins were so fluke-ish.
Yeah.
It was but then when he started defending his title, it's like, oh shit, this dude's good. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's what they need. They need to see where it's at, and I think it's going to be a test, because once you get beaten, and it did kind of seem like he gave up, but the thing is, if you're dazed and confused, if he really was concussed and he just wasn't there, what if he didn't give up? What if he just wasn't there? Because the other thing is, a lot of people making these opinions, the only people I can really respect their opinion is people who've been concussed and been in a combat situation, because you can make all these you can allude to all these things, but I've never been terribly concussed, so I can't tell you the type of decisions I'm going to make, how I'm going to feel, blah blah blah. I took a concussion when I was super young, flew off a bike, hit the ground, was out for a few, but other than that, in a combat situation, I haven't taken that. So I don't want to allude to some things that I don't know about, but I've seen chatter, oh, he gave up, and I'm like, cool, maybe he did, but at the same time, maybe he was blurry. There's a lot going on in the mind when you get hit, and the other homie's throwing, he has some power, and he has some quickness. So
absolutely, I agree. And one of the pictures that burns into my mind is that knockdown, and when he looked up and blinked like he could not see anything. Like I knew then. I was like, well, there's something going on right there. Like maybe it was just how hard he got hit, or maybe it was like they said, it was a little adding up to the concussions. But you could tell that wasn't just giving up. That was like when you're trying to blink open and see, and your eyes are like this big. You're like, that's struggling to see what's going on.
I cannot stand the majority of combat sports fans because the way they dissect things, like, it's so opinion based. They have no facts, and they're just like, he's scared, he's this, he's that. I wasn't even really a super Anthony Joshua fan until after the fight. He did this interview. I don't know if you saw it. And he said a quote that I actually put on one of my pictures on Instagram. And I was like, this is a down-to-earth dude. And he's a good dude. Yeah. So when people are just going ham on him like that, I'm like, dude, y'all. But he said, don't let success get to your head. And don't let failure get to your heart. Yeah. That's one of the illest things. I've never heard that quote. I'm sure it's floated around, But I was like, dude. But just what he was saying, he's like, we're going back to the drawing board, and we're going to work hard just like we've always done. And I was like, I can just respect that. Like, you know what I'm saying? And if someone does something crazy disrespectful, then I'm like, oh yeah, but people are so quick too. And the funniest thing I think is hilarious, and when people try to spend Floyd Mayweather's money on the internet. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I get it. Like, he's over here flaunting all this stuff, but who are you to say, like, they're always like, yo, you could have gave that to poor kids. And I'm like, dude, what if he does? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm like, yo, why don't you do that? Yeah. Well, I don't have it. Well, then why don't you shut the fuck up and get it? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, like, I get it. Like, he's polarized. He's done some horrible stuff. He's done some good stuff. But everyone's so quick to be like this, that, and the other. I'm like, yo, man, we're human. You remember that? Yeah. We've all made mistakes. Like, I love how people put certain people under the microscope, and then it's just let's go ham. Like, and I'm just like, dude, I get it, but it kills me. I guess I'm kind of laid back with it, and that's probably why I don't get as much attention on social media either, because it's really hard for me to rant on someone unless I have all the facts, and I'm like, yo, this was a bad play. It's hard for me to even give my full opinion on stuff just because I'm like, that's what everyone's doing. And I'm just like, I don't know. I'm like, yo, like, opinions are opinions. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, so it's weird, but yeah, man, definitely. Anyways, I just had to put that out there because I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. It's pretty insane.
The cyber tough guys are real.
Yeah, it's a real thing. But all right, we'll conclude the show. Make sure you follow Black Pegasus on Black Pegasus Raps on Instagram.
Yep. So on Instagram and Facebook, it's at Black Pegasus Raps. And then you don't need the Snapchat if you're grown. If you're grown, you don't need my Snapchat. So we're
good. All right, and don't forget, Rob will be on Twitch under Ruthless Rob.
Ruthless Rob.
Ruthless_Rob.
Yep.
All right. And we'll be back again. I think our next one, we might do a video game review with Ruthless Rob.
Yeah.
And then we got a couple other interviews coming up. So stay tuned for those. Thank you for checking us out. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Thank you guys for having me, too. Peace out, y'all.